Welcome to Demystify Magic with Molly and Madison.
I'm Molly, a former skeptic turned full-time energy healer and teacher.
And I'm Madison, a born and raised witch running my family's crystal shop.
And we're here to explore all things woo through the lens of both science and spirituality so that you can find the moments of magic in your everyday life and create an intentional spiritual practice.
So if that's what you're into, find a cozy spot, take a deep breath, and let's demystify some magic.
Hey, hi, hello, pod friends.
We came in hot with that one. I love it. Hello, how are you?
Oh, I am in a silly, goofy mood today. Very excited though, because we have a highly requested topic today. We are going to talk about spiritual cleansing, particularly some low effort rituals. Because if you know, you know, we're all about those easier, get them done, 5 minutes or less kind of rituals that fit into what you are already doing.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I feel like this is something that we're both asked all the time on TikTok and on other forms of social media. And I'm just really excited to have like a longer form kind of way to talk about it, because it's the kind of thing that I always feel like I'm like rushing to fit everything I want to say into the parameters of whatever other format I'm using.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Yeah. And just like with so many things we talk about on the pod, when you understand why you're doing it and what's actually happening, it makes it so much easier to choose a ritual that works for you rather than just like picking something because someone tells you to and like not wondering whether or not it's working or not.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like understanding the why too of like, what is the purpose? Like, what is this serving is really, really important. Because I feel like I see in any sort of ritual book, in any sort of like informational video that I see on TikTok of like how to do XYZ, it's always cleanse your materials and that's it. And I'm guilty of that too. I do it too because it's like so second nature once you found a method that works for you, that it's super easy to like skip that step.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited to talk about all the different ways to cleanse because I personally really, really love it because it's so easy.
Yes. Before we dive in though, Madison, what was your magic moment of the week?
You are actually part of my magic moment this week. And it's like many small magic moments. I sent you a little care package that I guess came in like about a week ago full of, we have a bunch of new products that are out in the store now at the Healing Hedge Witch. And I sent you just one of everything because, I don't know, I love you. You're my bestie. I wanted you to try it all. And I needed somebody to like be as excited about them as I was. Because like obviously everyone in the store is excited about it too. But they hype me up no matter what. And I know that you'll always like give me really how you feel about it. And so I sent you a care package with everything. And you've been using some of our Serenity oil, but specifically I feel like that's like jump-started you really using a creativity and inspiration oil that you've had for like a long time.
Yeah.
And so I've gotten like at least 10 to 15 voice notes from you this week of what you've created after you used the oil. And then seeing those things that you've created on your social medias, like all the videos you've made and everything that you've been doing for Reiki 3. And you've just sent me like truly, I feel like I've like been in the sidecar for all of your creation this week. And you've just had such nice things to say. And it always, especially like it means so much to me no matter what, but especially like from someone who I respect so much. It's so cool to be like, oh yeah, I've made something that has like a real tangible impact on my bestie.
Yeah. And don't forget, I made a creativity sigil using the instructions that you gave me in that sigil episode. And I feel like the combination of drawing the sigil on my skin with the oils, if you follow me on Instagram or on TikTok, a lot of people have reached out to me in the last week saying like they felt a shift in my content and they like are loving this new direction I'm going in. That's all because of Madison. Like that's all because of this oil. Like literally I put the oil on, made a sigil for like endless content ideas, and then made that money bowl video that went viral that pushed me past a threshold that I'd been stuck at on Instagram for 2 years. And then I started making simmer pot videos and it's just been like so much fun. And our podcast went kind of viral last week too, which I don't think is a coincidence.
Yeah, that is also a magic moment in itself. I've been getting a lot of that lately from you and from other people of like, oh shit, this stuff really works.
Yeah, it blows my mind and I know what's happening. Like it's still to me is like, holy crap.
And so it's even like inspired me because I'm bad to not use my own stuff, like to have all the tools in the world in this toolbox. And, you know, I want to keep stuff at the store. I never like want to take something from the store because I'm like, well, then, like, then we'll only have 14 instead of 15 in stock. And what if somebody wants to buy 15 of them tomorrow? And it's like really made me put an emphasis on using them in my life. And I've noticed a difference as well. And so it's just been really fun to see and watch. And especially like if you've been listening for a while, I've set the intention for the past few weeks. I've been talking about trying to step out of my sidekick energy. I like put myself in the sidekick box. And it's just been, ever since I set that intention, I feel like I've been slowly given like reminders and boosts of like, yeah, bitch, you're the main character.
Yeah, you are. Yeah. And because you're too modest, I'll remind everyone listening that you can get 20% off your order if you want to get any of those oils or candles that Madison so lovingly makes at the Healing Head Witch. Use the code MAGIC.
Yes.
I know I just placed another order.
It was so funny. Seeing that come through with the code MAGIC, I was like, yes, Molly. That's going out today, by the way.
Yes, I can't wait.
All right. What was your magic moment?
Okay. I had so many magic moments this week that I'm struggling to come up with one because they all have felt huge. We just talked about like some of them, but I think I'm going to go in the spirit of magic moments being like little tiny reminders of like just how magical life can be. I'm going to go with the smallest, like the most easily forgettable magic moment of my week. And that is that if you've been listening to Pod for a while, we adopted a second dog about 6 weeks ago, maybe 2 months ago. I don't know how long it's been. It feels like a lifetime and also a day. But I have been going on these really long walks because I've been walking both of the boys separately because Herc is a tugboat and Woody is a meanderer. So they're kind of hard to walk at the same time. Recently, I purchased a hands-free leash and it has, I'm not even exaggerating when I say it has changed my life. The boys walk so much better with it. I have one on the hands-free leash and the other one on a regular leash. They walk so much better. Like I'm walking faster. Herc doesn't pull as much. Woody is more focused. I can walk them both at the same time safely. And my hands are free. The first day I used it, I texted you and I was like, I'm using both thumbs on my walk right now. And it was like just one of those things that's so small, but has made that part of my day so much better when I'm walking them. And like walking them is one of my favorite parts of my day anyway. So to have that go from like a 9 to a 10 on the enjoyment scale has just been so fun. I'm excited to take them for a walk after we record this.
I feel like that has also been a magic moment for me because now I get access to you at like peak active meditation, like pure channeling, Molly. Like the voice notes that I get from you when you're walking the dogs using that, I'm like, oh yeah, she is in her element right now. Because I know like walking is also when I can like drum up a lot of creativity that way through activity. Mm-hmm. And so I just get another sidecar seat to like all of your downloads and you don't even have to wait to tell them to me.
I know. It's been so fun. And like, yeah, it's been cool because it's like sometimes I feel like I have to completely pause my day to take them for a walk. But now it's like I get the choice whether I pause my day or I like text you or I change what I'm listening to or whatever. Because I can't do that. They're both two-handed walkers on regular leashes. But on the hands-free leash, they just stay by my side. It's so wild. If you don't have one of these, get one. I got one with a traffic handle specifically, and it's got like a bungee in the center. I'll link it in the show notes if anyone's interested because It's truly changed my life.
It's made me wish I had a dog to walk because I feel like it would make life so much easier.
Dude, I'm like, we could get a third dog now. I'm thinking about getting 2 hands-free leashes and just having like one on each hip.
We could have a pack.
I know.
They could walk around you in a circle.
Yeah, seriously, it's changed my life. I'm like obsessed with it. So anyway, that's my very small magic moment of a week that has just felt like a nonstop magic moment.
I love that mindset of like choosing what is the smallest, most manageable magic moment that like I wouldn't have thought about if I wasn't looking for it. That's a really, that's a fun, smart way to look at it on those weeks where it feels, because I feel like there can be sort of like a feast or famine kind of thing with magic moments. Like for me, manifestation often comes like all at once.
Yeah, I keep telling you, I feel like I jumped timelines after the last new moon.
Things can get lost in that. And so I love like, okay, what's the smallest, like most insignificant magic moment that I can find here? And that's like my basis.
The way that I think of it, and this is what I would recommend all of you listening, is instead of looking for the big magic moments, look for the ones that a year from now you're going to forget that you wrote down. Like a year from now when I listen to this episode, I'm not going to remember how amazing that hands-free leash was when I got it because it's going to feel so a part of my everyday life.
Yes.
But I'm going to remember the bigger, you know, like launching Reiki 3 to my graduates and like our podcast going viral for the first time and like, you know, all of the videos that I made, whatever. But I'm not going to remember how in awe I was of this friggin' $20 leash that I bought on a whim.
Yes.
Like, and that's the one I want to document. That's the one that I want to cement in because then your brain starts to find more and more examples of those and everything becomes a magic moment.
Yes, because there are like the big things you're always going to be able to remember. We're always going to remember what it felt like the first time our podcast went viral, you know, but it is those smaller things that are going to get lost in that. So 100%. That's really good advice. Snaps for that.
Snaps for that.
All right. So today we are launching into cleansing practices.
Yeah.
How would you define what cleansing is?
Oh, that's a great question.
I know. That's why I asked it.
I know. So, you know, I'm kind of a geek with this science stuff. So I tend to think of it in terms of transference, which I was going to talk about this later, but I'm just going to geek it. I'm going to geek out about why we cleanse and then tell you what cleansing is because I think it makes more sense when we do the why before the what.
Okay.
So we talked about I think it was our How Reiki Works episode, which if you haven't listened to that yet, you should. But we talked about vibration and how everything in our world, us, this desk, this microphone, the space between us, everyone in this space, is made up of these tiny little particles that are all vibrating at different speeds, different frequencies. Okay. And our vibration on a cellular level is affected by the vibrations within our environment. So if you've ever walked into a space and someone's in a bad mood, you can feel it before they even say or do anything, right? You can cut the tension with a knife. Or if you ever walked into a space with a friend who's really excited and you feel yourself start to lift, that's you responding to the frequencies and the energy in that space. And so one of the things that can happen is called transference, which is basically when an energy in a space affects you. So maybe you work with people for a living. Maybe you work with clients, you're a therapist or a hairdresser or something, and you have a client that is in kind of a bad mood. And then you work with that person and you kind of feel heavier after. You feel like you're in kind of a funk afterwards. That's that transference of energy. And it's because we're constantly responding to what's in our environment. So when we cleanse, we are sort of bringing that frequency back to baseline. We're removing that transference. We're removing other people's energy. We're removing the lower frequencies, the slower vibrations, so that we can have almost like more of a cleaner practice, cleaner in terms of intention, right? Like I kind of think of it as if you have a dish sponge that's filled with marinara sauce and you go to clean the rest of your dishes, like they're going to get clean, but they're going to kind of have that smell of marinara sauce. So cleansing is sort of like wringing that sponge out so that when you go to clean the rest of your dishes, you're not moving that marinara sauce from your plate to your bowl to your fork. And so when we're doing practices, rituals, or any sort of spell work, any time of energy work, working with crystals, we want to make sure that our sponge is clean. So our tools that we're using, the space that we're using isn't holding anyone else's energy or holding any energy that's going to kind of muck up what our plans are.
God, you're so good at a metaphor. I am taking the sponge metaphor and using it every day for the rest of my life.
Yeah. I like it because it's so visceral. Like you know what that's like.
That's a universal experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, I just cleaned the sponge. Like it's so simple. It's so simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. And I think that's a big myth about cleansing is it has to be this big elaborate ritual, but it doesn't. It could happen all in your brain. It could be a breath. It could be a cleansing breath. It doesn't have to be like a big elaborate hoopla. And I think that's why I'm so excited to share the list that we've come up with, because I too used to think it was a big thing that had to big to do on my list. And now it's like, oh, I just do it in like 30 seconds.
Yes, 100%. I also think the big common misconception is that like you can do it wrong or that there's like really severe negative consequences for not doing it enough or not doing it correctly. And this is something that I used to really, really like kind of get in a little bit of a loop on or like worry about and kind of obsess about a little bit was, did I cleanse it enough? did I get all of the energy off? And what if the energy that's on it is so bad that it's like contaminated everything in my space? And so if that's something that you worry about, I'm just going to go ahead and set the tone now. There's no way to do it wrong. There's no way to not do it enough. Nothing's bad's going to happen to you if you forget to cleanse. Everything's okay.
Yeah. The thing I like to remind people is that at any given moment, there's like 73 trillion things that could take you out and you're still here. So there's a whole lot more in this universe, energetically, physically, emotionally, whatever, that is supporting you than it is trying to harm you.
And going back to the sponge thing, I just realized this too. Another reason that's such a good metaphor is because even when you're using the sponge that still has that little bit of marinara on it, the dishes are still getting clean.
Yep, exactly. It's just not going to be as clean, and that's okay. Sometimes you just need dishes that don't have crud on them, and that's okay. And in your practice, sometimes you just need a quick little something you don't have time to cleanse. That's okay. Like the world's not going to come crashing down.
Yep. It doesn't negate anything that you're doing. It doesn't, equal opposite effect. I know that's something that I've heard people worried about when, like it's all okay.
Yeah. You're going to be fine.
So I'll ask you again. What's your definition of cleansing?
I think it's bringing the energy back to its baseline. Clearing any energy that's not yours, any energy that's lower in frequency. When it comes to like using tools like herbs or crystals, oils, whatever, it's like bringing them back to the frequency or the vibration that they are intended for rather than whatever kind of transference has affected them.
Yeah, I like that. That's like that feels like it covers all of the bases that I was thinking too. I really like the idea of bringing something back to baseline rather than like, I think there's this kind of negative connotation that comes with cleansing that like, especially things that you buy new, that there's like some nasty energy on it that you're bringing into your space that like you need to get off right away, where bringing it back to baseline, I feel like kind of neutralizes that, where it's less urgent.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not a big urgent type of person. I think our practice is supposed to reprogram our relationship to urgency, not contribute to it.
Yeah.
That's my go-to, but if you have a different belief system and you believe that cleansing is an urgent practice, then like you do you, bestie.
Yeah, I think it really is like about what works for you. And I know that I am the kind of person that a level of urgency does help me get things done sometimes. So if you need to create a level of urgency that goes with things in your spiritual practice, there's nothing wrong with that either, as long as it's like serving you and it's not creating stress, it's creating space.
Yes. I love that. I put that on a t-shirt.
Seriously. Trademark that.
So how do we do it? How do we cleanse? What's your go-to method? I know we made a list, but what's your fave?
Sound and smoke are my two favorites. I love an incense. I love a little herb bundle. A nice mugwort moment. That's like a favorite for me for smoke cleansing. The only thing is I know you have this problem too with the boys. I have cats. And so that is something that I do have to create some sense of urgency around of like, I'm real quick with it.
Yeah.
I really like to smoke cleanse myself more than my space because I also have a lot of anxiety about setting off the fire alarm. And so I never let incense go for like more than a couple minutes because I'm convinced I'm going to set off the fire alarm. But smoke cleansing for me is a really great, like before I head out the door, I will smoke cleanse myself because then it makes me smell kind of nice and like earthy. I feel like that makes me like smell like cool witch girl.
Yeah.
Which is like a little bit a part of it.
Can you make a body spray that's just called Cool Witch Girl?
Yes, I'll start working on that right away.
I love that.
What about you? What's your favorite way?
Probably Reiki or lately I've been into smoke cleansing. I was anti-smoke cleansing for a long time because I have allergies and dogs. But when I learned that I can just do a quick little incense, I don't have to let the whole thing burn down. It's made smoke cleansing a lot easier. I literally use the same the incense stick I'm staring at right now. I've used for a year. Like that's
it's the best. It's the best. It's so cost effective.
I know. But yeah, let's dive into. We'll talk about how to do smoke cleansing, how to do all of it. But do you want to just dive into this list that we have and go one by one?
Yeah, let's just do that.
Okay,
sounds good to me. So first on our list is something that I never remembered to do. And so I'm hoping that this podcast will spur me to remember to do it next time. Moon water in your laundry or in your any sort of cleaning sprays.
Yeah.
Like once you've used a little bit of your Windex, take the top off, pour a little bit of moon water in there. The laundry is something that I only remember once I've like closed the lid and turned it on and the lid is locked.
Yeah, this is what inspired this entire episode, because as we talked about in the last episode, I got a cool decanter for moon water, and so now I'm using moon water in everything. And so I put it in my vacuum mop. So when I spray my floors with the cleaner, it's also spraying moon water at the same time.
So smart. I love it.
The thing about cleansing is it can be the same as physical cleaning. Like cleansing in and of itself is the intention behind it matters more than the actual tools that you used or the practice you used. So anytime you are physically cleaning, just set the intention that you're cleaning the energy as well, or clearing the energy as well. Because truthfully, like dust, debris, pollen, whatever you have in your space that you're cleaning is no different than energy. Like energy drops and lands on your stuff, on your surfaces, on your floor, just like dust does. So when you're cleaning the dust, you are in the same time moving the energy around, shifting the energy. So you just set the intention of, while I'm cleaning this, I'm also releasing any energy that's not serving me here. Boom. Now you don't have to add one more thing to your list.
Exactly. It's just a little one breath moment of, okay, this is what we're doing here. Something that isn't on the list, I think I'm like 99% sure I said this in our sigils episode, which if you haven't listened, you totally should. We make a sigil on air. It's really fun. I use sigils in cleansing.
I just wrote that on the list.
Oh my God, did you really?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to tell this story again because it really is like one of the best ideas I've ever had. I'm so proud of it. Now that I'm thinking about it, I totally did tell the story on the sigils episode. So sorry, you're going to hear it again. Put a sigil on your robot vacuum.
Yeah, or any vacuum.
Or any vacuum, on anything that on your broom, on your dustpan,
on your cleaner spray bottle,
on your trash can.
Oh my God, the trash can!
I'm doing that when we get off this call. I just thought of that.
You could put it on, like, if you're like me and after you clean your house, you light a candle to kind of like solidify that I did a good job. Put a sigil on the bottom of the candle.
Yes. Carve it in the wax.
Yes.
Oh,
I love when we come up with ideas in real time, because people. So I have to tell this story. My husband does not listen to the podcast, and sometimes I make fun of him for it. And I was like, babe, he's like, he was like, your podcast is great. And I was like, you've never even listened to it. And he's like, I listen to you and Madison send voice notes back and forth to each other. Isn't that kind of the same thing? And this is prime example of yes, it is.
Yes, it is. 100%. That's exactly what it sounds like. A couple weeks ago, before we decided to do this episode, when you got the decanter, we just were sending ideas back and forth of things that you could do with moon water.
Yeah.
And we got so intense and also so far out of the realm of like anything that we would ever do. Like I don't even know what we put on that list, but we were really like, it was like neither of us wanted to be the last person to send something. And so I was like, wash your hands with it. Use it when you do the dishes.
I said put it in the rinse section of your dishwasher.
Yes. You did.
So if you want to hear a moon water episode with that full list, let us know. Send us a DM.
Yeah. See how unhinged we can get with it.
But in the meantime, you can use moon water for cleansing. Whatever you use water for in cleaning, whether it's your floors, your multi-surface cleaner, your Windex, washing your dishes, your laundry.
Something else that I forgot to put on this list that I also love to use for cleansing is Florida water.
Mm-hmm.
It's a spiritual cologne. You can kind of use it in the same way. It's got a little bit more of a distinct smell, so you'll want to like give it a sniff before you put it in your laundry. But I love it. I put it on the back of my neck. Usually I'll like, if I'm like going out into the world, my little pre-leave the house ritual is Florida water on the back of my neck, base oils, one of my oils on my wrists, behind my ears, and then perfume.
My truth is I've never smelled Florida water.
Really? I can't even like describe what it smells like. It's very herbaceous. I believe that there's witch hazel in most recipes. So that kind of smell, it's like a little sharp, but it like feels so refreshing on the skin. That's like a cleansing method that I really love because I feel different physically and energetically.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And those kind of feed into each other.
I'm going to have to add it to my list. Okay, the next one that we have on here is sound cleansing. Now, you can do this with an instrument. Doesn't matter which one. A friggin' triangle works. A drum, if you have one of those kicking around. A sound bowl. Singing bowl. Those are the words.
You can sing yourself, your own singing, your own yelling, your own talking.
You can go on YouTube, look up sound cleansing. I also this is my hot take that I don't know if people will disagree with me on, but I never hear anyone say it. You don't have to listen to quote unquote sound cleansing music to cleanse something with sound. I cleansed my kitchen this morning to Aaron's Party Come Get It.
As you should.
As you should, right? I'm sitting there, I'm dancing around. I'm like, people all around, you got to come get it. You know, the energy is so different in the space after. You can't tell me that that is less effective than a singing bowl.
Definitely not. Finding music that has the kind of energy that you're looking to bring into the space, I would argue it's more effective. It's more custom to exactly what you want and need.
Yeah.
You're both cleansing with the sound and bringing in the energy of the music.
I have a Spotify playlist that I've titled Cleanse My Freaking Soul. And it's every song that I know that when I hear it, I just can't not sing along and dance to. Like it just lifts my mood right away. Highly recommend making a playlist like that for yourself.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, super easy.
All right, next on this list is one that you've been really diving in deep with.
Really into it lately. This is my hyperfixation.
Molly is on a simmer pot kick.
I am. It's fall is here. I'm ready to put more humidity back into my space.
So bring back the moisture. This is something that you can do if you've never made a simmer pot before. It's water, usually some kind of fruit, some herbs, kind of anything that you want to put in it that will like put off oils and smell in a pot of simmering water.
Yeah. I have a bunch of recipes on my Instagram if you're over there.
And a really, really great story
Oh.
if you want a good giggle.
Oh, God.
Our disclaimer is always set a timer. If you, like us, are a little neurospicy, have a little bit of a squiggly brain, set a timer before you leave that simmer pot unattended.
Okay, here's what happened. All right, I am impatient with my simmer pot, so I always turn them up to a boil and then turn them down to a simmer. So the other day I made a simmer pot, the abundance simmer pot. No, it was the anti-anxiety simmer pot. That's why it was so ironic. It's the recipes on my Instagram, but I turned it up to a boil. And then I had every intention of within a minute turning it down to a simmer. But what happened instead was my ADHD was like, I haven't had lunch yet. I should see what's in the fridge. And then while I was in the fridge, I was like, ooh, I should throw that towel in the washer. And then when I threw that towel in the washer, I was like, oh, I am hungry. And then I made a snack. And then I was like, you know what? There's no room at my kitchen table because there's stuff everywhere. So I should go sit on the front porch. And then the boys came and joined me. And then one of the boys jumped up on my lap, the dogs. I think we know that by now. And then so I'm sitting there and I start scrolling TikTok and like a good amount of time goes by and I'm just sitting there like enjoying my day on the porch. The door's open and I just have a little sniffy sniff and I'm like, God, my neighbors are making something weird. It smells like they're burning something. I keep sitting there and then like 10 minutes go by. I'm like, what the hell are they making? It smells like orange bread. There's like a floral note behind it. And then I was like, oh, my simmer pot. And I run into the house. All the water is gone. Everything is burned to the bottom of the pan. I was like, oh no. Like I posted a picture of it on my Instagram story, but like the oranges that were in it were black. And so I opened all the windows and we happened to have taken the air conditioners out. So we don't have screens in our windows right now. And then I opened the back door and I brought the boys outside with me so the smoke could clear out. And when I came back in, my house was filled with bees. There was bees everywhere. There was just bees swarming around. And so I had to shut everything and then one by one get the bees to go out the windows. And whenever I brought one bee out the window, 3 more would come back in.
This does not get any less funny to me. I got it in real time as it was happening. I watched it on your Instagram stories. And then hearing you tell it for the third time, I'm still like, oh my God, this is the funniest thing I've ever heard. Imagine you with the bees. Like, that really gets me.
And the best part, so my spouse, he's not witchy. He doesn't get the simmer pot thing. And he's also allergic to bees. And so I'm like trying to clear it all out, all the evidence before he gets home.
You were like, Justin will never let me live it down.
He's never going to let me use a simmer pot ever again. So, word to the wise, if you make a simmer pot, put a timer on. I've also been told from people, some very kind people have let me know that instead of using the stove, you can use a crock pot, and then you don't have as much fire. And then someone else said they use a gravy boat with a tea light under it. And so
people are so smart.
So smart. So those are some alternative options if you were like me and you forget to do these things. Usually when I make a simmer pot, I will put it on while I'm cleaning my kitchen and then, or like meal prepping, and then I will turn it off before I leave the space. I just happen to, because I filmed that simmer pot video, I cleaned my kitchen before I made the simmer pot. So yeah, my habit was all messed up, but simmer pots are great for cleansing. Also, I was not anxious at all while I was dealing with the bees, so it totally worked.
Yeah, I was very surprised by how you handled it because, like, we both were just dying laughing. You were like, what do I do? And I was like, I don't know. And it was truly the most chill crisis I think you've ever had that I've witnessed.
It worked.
But if you're going to use a simmer pot for cleansing, get it up to that simmer, let it get nice and steamy. And depending on like the size of your pot and like how comfy you feel carrying it around, I will like take it to the different rooms in my space.
Ooh, I love that idea.
And let the steam cleanse too. So just like do like a slow little walk through, let the steam touch each of the rooms, and then put it back on the stove and let it, permeate the kitchen.
Yeah. There's lots of things you can do with the water after. Like I will strain it and I will put some drops in my essential oil diffuser. Or you can put a few drops in a spray bottle with some witch hazel and spray it in your room for a cleansing spray. You could also use it like in place of moon water in any of the things we mentioned before as well.
Ooh, I love that. Reuse the water.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Wash your floors with it. Wash your doors with it. Depending on what's in it, you could throw some in your bath.
That's gorge.
I know.
I love that. Wow.
Okay, next thing that you can use for cleansing, which we are actually going to do a whole series on, is crystals. We've heard you. You want to hear about crystals. We got you. All right. This is coming up. We have a very exciting episode about crystals that we can't talk about yet, but we're so excited. We have our first guest.
I can't.
Coming on the pod.
Our first guest.
I'm going to throw up. Like
Molly's gonna have an aneurysm about it.
I'm gonna need to put that simmer pot on again when we do this interview. But we that series will be starting next week. So if you have questions about how to work with crystals, something you've always wanted to know, please DM us or drop it in the Q&A form down in the show notes. But you can use crystals for cleansing. My favorite is using a selenite stick. So you take a stick of selenite. What I like to do is either a back and forth motion or a circle motion. Go based on your intuition, what feels best for you. You're going to do the palms of your hands, wave it over the palms of your hands, wave it over the soles of your feet and the crown of your head. Those are the parts of your body energetically where you clear energy. So we want to almost like open the window, open the doors so that the bees can fly out. The proverbial energetic bees. And then what you can do is you can use that wand almost like you were at an airport getting the metal detector wand over your whole body. Do that with the selenite and clear the energy on the front, the sides, the back, whatever you can reach in the back is fine. And that's a great way to really quickly cleanse your energy. I know I have a lot of Reiki graduates who are teachers or they are mental health clinicians, and they will keep selenite on their desk, and in between classes or in between clients, they will do that so that they're not carrying the energy from one appointment or one meeting to the other. And that's a really, really good one to do. It takes like 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's a really, really great method for people who work in the public.
Yeah.
Because it's very inconspicuous and it's super easy to like keep with you. Mm-hmm. I love to use selenite for cleansing my space. This is my favorite like set it and forget it type of cleansing. I put little selenite sticks. You can even like buy those little like 3-4 inch sticks and break them in half. That's what I'll often do, and put them in all of your windows and above all of your doors.
Smart. We love
And
that.
I've described this as like an energetic boundary.
Mm-hmm.
So it is an immediate cleanse for anything and anyone that enters your space.
Mm-hmm.
And it cleanses you as you walk in and walk out.
Yeah. I will also keep them like, because I work with other people's energy often in my work, I have a selenite stick underneath my desk. So when I'm working with people online, that energy is getting cleansed. I'm not like holding on to it.
Yeah, I feel like selenite is so underrated because it's like so popular almost. Like it's gotten like the
so
Taylor
good.
Swift effect of I notice people kind of shy away from it because it's so popular of like
no, it's so good.
I want a cooler cleansing method. I'm not like other girls. I don't use selenite.
Selenite's the
Selenite
best.
is my hero.
Also, like if you're cleansing other crystals, all you have to do is put it on top of your selenite. That's it. I have a piece of selenite. I call it my 2x4 because that's how big it is. And it's literally, I just keep it on my table. And when I take my crystal jewelry off, I just put it on the selenite. Boom. Bada bing, bada boom. It's done. And then I just pick it up the next day. We're good to go.
Selenite is one of the few crystals that like I have that similar sensation I was talking about with the Florida water where I can feel different physically.
Yeah.
So a couple weeks ago, you guys heard on the podcast last week, I was in Denver for the Gem and Mineral show. We don't buy selenite at those larger shows where we have to ship things back because it's so fragile and it's so heavy.
Mm-hmm.
We have someone local to us about a 2-hour drive in Orlando who we drive to get the selenite. And when I tell you we loaded up, I mean we loaded up. Like we are ready for Christmas time. You get a selenite bowl and you get a selenite bowl and you get a selenite bowl. Like we are ready for Christmas gifts with selenite. And I was in the back processing it, like counting everything and putting it in the system, getting it tagged, you know, all like normal stuff. And we have like a back office that's like a pretty small room with like hundreds of pounds of selenite in it. And I was in there for a few hours. I stood up to go get something and I was like, oh, why do I feel like weird?
Yeah.
Like, I'm a little lightheaded.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like I'm like things like aren't real right now. And I stepped out into our like back room, like where we actually keep not the office, but where we keep our back stock. And everyone was like kind of talking, whatever. And I was like, I'm not well. And then I stood out there for like 2 minutes away from the selenite.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, I'm normal again. I like had selenite overload and I have never, I guess there are a few crystals that we like get really in that quantity because there are so many things that you can make out of selenite. And so we have like, you know, tons of all these different types that like it just isn't as popular with other stones. So maybe I would feel that way if I was like around that much rose quartz or something.
Selenite's also like extremely high frequency. Yeah,
Yes.
that's why it's cleansing because it's like we said with the transference, right? You have the high frequency and then your frequency drops when you're around that person that's upset. It's like selenite is very, very high frequency, so you lift with it. That's why it's one of those crystals that doesn't need to be cleansed because it's like it's cleansing itself.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, there's like nothing. I am up there with that selenite immediately. Yeah. And so it was one of those moments where I was like, oh, like I know my beliefs and I know what I know to be true about these stones, but it's so cool to like feel the physical difference in my body with exposure to them. So highly recommend selenite.
Yeah. Love it. Love it.
Another great method for cleansing that I learned from you, as we all know, is Reiki.
Yeah.
I love using Reiki for cleansing too. I remember one of the first moments that I had too with Reiki where I was like, oh shit, this is real, is the first time I tried to cleanse a space with it. So in your Reiki 1 training, it's all Reiki for the self. And then Reiki 2 is when you get into Reiki for other people and Reiki for spaces. And I, of course, am such a star student that I once tried in between my Reiki 1 and Reiki 2 trainings was like, I'm just going to try and cleanse the space because I bet I could do it. I bet I could do it with no instruction and no understanding of what to do. And I told you about this the next day. I was like, what happened? What's something wrong with my space? Because I was in my bedroom trying to go to sleep and I decided to cleanse the space and felt like an actual, I don't even know how to describe the physical resistance that I felt. And then being in your Reiki 2 program, learning how to cleanse spaces with Reiki, doing it again, I was like, oh, this is legit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so fun.
Yeah. So in Reiki 1, we talk about it's more of like the hands-on protocol. So how you do put hands on yourself and send yourself Reiki. So you can use that same method, like hands-on something to cleanse it. So we do like, I walk you through how to do it for your water and through your crystals and things like that. So you could do it for like a tool with Reiki, just like you would send Reiki to yourself. But when you're doing a space, it's more of the distance protocol. So it's just like the energy doesn't flow through the same way. It needs like a little bit more support to get to.
Wait, so I have a question.
Yeah.
If I had done that first time by putting my hands on the wall, would I have had a similar experience? Or is it because I was trying to do it from my bed? Or is it more so like a space is more of a concept than like a physical thing?
Yeah, I think it's more of a concept than a physical thing. I think like you may not have felt the same resistance doing it to the wall, but I don't think it would have accomplished exactly what you were looking for.
Mm-hmm. I would have cleansed the wall.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you could argue that like the wall's attached to the ceiling and attached to the floor, but that's kind of like it's a less concentrated way of cleansing. So it's kind of like
it's more like following the letter of the law than the spirit of the law.
Yeah.
Like technically I am cleansing the space.
Yeah.
But the energy inside the space is the space as well. And that is harder to touch.
Yeah, and it's just not as effective. It's kind of like, okay, you can have, say you're trying to water a garden. You could have a sprinkler that covers your entire lawn with the same water, or you could have the shower setting on your hose that's directed right at your garden. Like both are going to get your garden wet. It's just one's going to take more time. It's less efficient. It's less concentrated. It may not bring you the same results that you're looking for. You're probably going to use more energy than like you actually need to.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can use Reiki. You can also use like your own energy, your own intention. It doesn't have to particularly be Reiki. It's just Reiki has a lot of support behind it. So you're not using your own energy. So if you're feeling depleted, if you're feeling affected by the energy, Reiki will also cleanse you at the same time it's cleansing whatever you're holding or your space. So that's why I like it, because it's one of those that I don't have to, like, nobody has to know that I'm doing it. I don't need any particular tools. So if I get in my car and the energy feels kind of funky, I don't have to like get out and get my moon water and put it in a spray bottle and whatever. I can kind of just like be in it, you know, send Reiki to the space, open the windows, let the energy go out, and then carry on my day. It takes like 2 minutes. So that's why it's one of my favorites, because it's just so easy. I don't have to like think about it or do any pre-planning.
Yeah, I also love it because it's something that I can do for other people.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest claim to fame in my friend group is that I did Reiki on my friend and also on her hospital room while she gave birth.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like the most wonderful experience of like being able to give someone something like that.
Yeah.
I'll cleanse my boyfriend's office. I actually don't know if I ever told you this about when my friend had her baby, that I cleansed the hospital room with Reiki and I could see it in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then she shared pictures with me from like right after the birth of her and her husband and her baby. And it was the same fucking hospital room that I saw in my brain.
Isn't that wild? I love when that happens.
Which like partially like, yes, most hospital rooms look the same. But I mean like down to the wall, the paint on the wall color.
Yeah.
Like the color of the hospital gown.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it fun?
It was so fun. And so now I like love to do that as like a gift for people. Like if someone tells me that they're having a rough day, I'm like, do you want some Reiki on your space, on yourself, on, you know?
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I do it on my space at least once a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one we have on the list, which we alluded to earlier, and then I realized we put it at the very bottom of our list, is smoke cleansing.
We left you on the edge of your seat for that one.
I know. It was not intentional, I promise. But thank you for listening this far into the episode. If you haven't dropped us a review yet, we'd really love it if you did. So smoke cleansing can be done with a lot of different things. The big disclaimer I will give for this is that it's really important to research the herb that you are using before you burn it for cleansing. There are some herbs that are a part of closed practices, which means that basically, like, as a white person, I'm not like the authority of talking about this, but I will give you some information so that you can deep dive and learn from indigenous sources, which are ultimately like better places to learn from about this. But the idea is like white sage is a really popular one that is used for cleansing, and indigenous populations have basically asked people outside of their culture to not use it. And I'm a big believer that you get what you give when it comes to energy work. And so if there is a group of people that are saying like, hey, it actually causes harm to our culture and our environment if you use this herb for cleansing, then why would we use it? Like, there's so many alternatives. And I also think like the reason a lot of people have a hard time with like closed practices and understanding why it's so important. The thing that I want to stress is that, like, you know me, if you've listened to this podcast for a long time, I am a huge advocate for anti-violence work. And so this is what has made sense for me. Again, research is important, but the indigenous populations that use white sage in their practice, they experience violence because of that practice. Like, there was abuse, there was genocide done to people by Americans, white people, other people, majority groups, because they had this practice. They were othered because of it. And not just that practice, but, you know, like so many things about their culture. That was just one element. And now you can buy white sage in Urban Outfitters because white people have deemed it to be trendy. Mm-hmm. And we've kind of like used that as an excuse to forget that history. And I think it's really important when we are doing practices for cleansing that we are really intentional about the energy we're bringing into our space. So if you use white sage, or Palo Santo is another one, and you didn't know this, you didn't know that it was part of a closed practice, it's considered cultural appropriation, like no harm done, like you're not a bad person. But now that you know, it's like, what energy are you bringing into your space if you continue to ignore these groups of people who are asking you not to use them, right? Like, what energy are you bringing into your space if you're trying to cleanse with something that someone has deliberately said like, hey, it causes harm to our culture if you continue to use this. Like, I'm a believer that when we completely disregard cultural appropriation and just use things because we want to use them, then we are not actually cleansing our space, because the intention has now shifted from cleansing to being right or disregarding or causing harm or whatever.
And ego.
So that's my soapbox. Yeah, it's definitely like the ego for sure.
And all of that aside as well, the practice that is being appropriated with the use of white sage is called smudging. Mm-hmm. You'll often see white sage in like a little thing called a smudge kit, and it'll be like, you know, a thing of white sage and like maybe a feather and some other things. The whole point of a closed practice is that people outside of that practice do not learn what it is.
Mm-hmm. They don't learn all the steps.
Mm-hmm. So when you buy a smudge kit and you think that you're smudging, you're not. You're doing a watered down idea that is passed down through however many people who don't actually know what that practice is, aka it doesn't work.
Yeah.
You're like, so even if the, you know, all of the very real cultural impacts do not sway you, just know that it also, you're not doing the ritual that you think you're doing. Like, there's just so many reasons to not do it, in my opinion. And so being in a space like the store with a lot of people who don't know, I will give all of those reasons as to why we don't carry white sage.
Yeah. So to clarify, smoke cleansing is an open practice. It is not considered cultural appropriation. Smudging, specifically smudging, using white sage, Palo Santo, I'm sure there's others, are considered closed practices. So the difference is in, has the culture who this practice has been passed down and passed down and passed down, do they say, please don't use this or not? Is this a part of a practice that they are freely sharing, or that they are asking for people outside of that culture not to use? Because I know there's like, you know, there's history of using, people ask me about this with crystals all the time. Are crystals part of a closed practice? The answer is no. However, it's like, I can put a crystal on my forehead and meditate with it. That's not a closed practice. But if I wear a crystal bindi, that is a close practice because it's a part of a religious ceremony that I am not a part of. So it's kind of like that differential. That's what I mean by like making sure you do your research before you choose what herbs. But we'll give you a list of ones that are, as far as we know, a part of open practices that are not considered cultural appropriation, so that you can run with one of those. And I highly recommend, if this is new information to you, like do some research on cultural appropriation and smoke cleansing. It is so eye-opening, and I highly recommend learning from indigenous resources rather than people like me, who's a white person just like relaying what I've been told.
Yes, 100%. If you are looking for herb bundles that can act as a replacement for white sage, blue sage is very close in both smell and look and like texture. Mugwort is my favorite. Rosemary, cedar.
Eucalyptus is my fave. I like eucalyptus. I also will sometimes just burn a cinnamon stick, just the lightest cinnamon stick, or bay leaves is another really good one. Incense is great. I like the Nag Champa incense, or I have a frank incense that I will use.
I really love the brand Sea Witch Botanicals. We carry them in the store. They just came out with their Samhain incense, and I love, love, love it. I love most of their scents. Honestly, we carry them all. They do some seasonals. We have those. They do really great. They are what I would call my cool witch girl scents.
Cool witch girl scents. There you go.
And so if you're looking to cleanse yourself with smoke, it's super easy. You just light whatever it is. You know, same as like with incense where, you know, you let the flame get a little bit big and then you blow it out and it's like just the embers. So then it's just smoking. I will wrap it around my head, you know, do like a couple little rings around my arms up. I'm showing you as if anyone can see. I'm like fully doing it right now. Across my legs. You know, you can do that same motion that Molly was talking about with the like the TSA. That's a really good analogy. I like to make like big sweeping circles across my body. And if you're doing it in your house, if you're like me and you're afraid of setting off the smoke alarm, you do just a quick little walk through. I will often focus on the corners.
Yeah, that's what I do too.
And any of the entryways, like any doorways, any windows.
And then if you're curious, if you're like us and you want to blow the incense out before it's fully burned, I snuff mine out in my money bowl.
Oh, that's good.
Because I just leave it in my money bowl all the time. And then it's infused with that energy. And because I have salt in the base of my money bowl with the rice, the ash from the incense turns it into black salt. So it's there for protection.
Fun. That's so good. I have a little pewter plate that I use for any ritual work, and I just jam it on that until it's gone. So
yeah. Before I had a money bowl, I would put it in my houseplants. I would just put it out in the soil. So that works too.
Wow. Also, something that I didn't think about that I would like to talk about now is plants are a great thing to have in your house for cleansing.
Yes.
They absorb and transmute energy. Talking about having things in your space that like have energy that you want to bring in. Plants, living things.
Yeah. And they will also tell you when the energy is stagnant. Like I'm noticing this plant over here, the leaves are turning yellow. And so I know when I move it to a different corner, it's going to come back to life. Or when I cleanse it, it will come back to life. So I always find that with my plants, they will tell you when the energy is good. They are blooming, they are growing, they are sprouting new leaves. And when the energy is kind of shitty, they will suffer. So those are really good ways to tell when you need a cleanse. I have one of those plants that droops if I don't water it. And so whenever it starts to droop, that's my cue to water all of my plants. And I also use it as a cue to cleanse my space.
Oh, I love that.
You could put moon water in your plants and then that's cleansing your space while you're watering your plants.
Yes. Oh, so good.
The lowest effort spiritual practices.
I have friends who will use plants as wards. Like they'll give them the intention that they like that plant's job is to like absorb any negative energy that's like being sent their way.
Yeah. I have a pothos right by my front door because it absorbs the negative energy as people come through my space.
I get to like I would feel really sad at the idea of like, what if somebody's sending me a lot of bad vibes and then that plant dies and that plant didn't do anything? Like, so I'm too emotionally invested in my house plants. I would love, if this was a visual medium, I would love to just do a plant tour. day because I love to talk about them. And so I have never used them specifically as a ward. I'm more so like everybody work together to transmute the energy so that it's like spread out between all my plants.
So if you want to use your plants as a word, but you don't want them to die, just stick a crystal in the soil with them. That will protect them.
Okay, thank you. I will.
Or do Reiki on them, or both.
Or both.
There you go.
Okay. I think that's all of our low effort cleansing methods. Do you have any others that you can think of?
The other one that I thought of was for yourself is you can just cleanse yourself in the shower. Like when you're cleaning, visualize the energy runoff, which I know we've talked about in other episodes before, so we didn't add it to the list. But just in case this is your first time listening to us, you can literally add it to what you're already doing. Whenever you wash your hands, just focus on cleansing the energy, set the intention, maybe even visualize the energy going down the drain. You don't have to make it complicated. Just do it. Let us know how it feels after. Let us know your favorite method too, or if you have methods we didn't mention, send it our way.
I feel like I've learned so much from the people who listen to this podcast. It's bonkers. I have so much fun. So let us know if you have anything that we didn't cover.
All right. Until next time.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Demystify Magic with Molly and Madison. If you want to learn more about us, you can find all our links in the show notes.
We'd love to know what you think of today's episode, so drop us a review or give us a shout out on social media. And don't forget to let us know your magical moment of the week. Okay, love you. Bye.